Welcome to Harmon Garage. I'm Aaron, and today we're going to take off on another exciting project. So this should be a pretty quick wham bam and we're done. But in the way things normally go, there's a good chance it'll be a 2-week project that I don't finish. So we'll see. Before we get started, don't forget, old hot shot here is being given away. 1981 C30 cabin chassis dually flatbed. It is all, the way you win it is to make donations to the Joseph F. Weldy Home for Children in Winfield, Alabama. All the links and everything are in my description, and there is a full video on the channel about that truck and going through it and how to win it and everything else. So I will put the links in the description below. Every $25 donation is one chance to win that truck, and the giveaway goes through May 31st. So as long as you get the donation postmarked by May 31st, or get your donations in by May 31st, then you're entered to win. So don't forget about that. Links are in the description. And today we are going to do a willet start on this 1984 long bed Chevy C10. And it's a long bed frame, doesn't have a bed. So there's a little bit of a backstory on this truck. If you guys watch the channel, you know what Swamp Thing is. Swamp Thing is sitting right over there. And you know that it's called Swamp Thing because I pulled it out of a swamp and we cleaned it up and redid it and turned into a pretty good truck. Well, a buddy of mine who just happened to be the person that told me about Swamp Thing, or made it so that I could go and look at and get Swamp Thing, bought this truck out of the same swamp. And so the bed was destroyed. Like, it wasn't bolted on, it was caved in everywhere it could be caved in. So he never even bolted it down, he just sent it straight to the scrapyard. It was beyond fixing. This fender could be fixed, but it's pretty tore up. This door could be fixed, but it's pretty tore up. Bumper's bent. Passenger side fender is good. Door, I don't know if you guys can see that dent. It's fixable, but not fantastic. And there's dents in the back of the cab on both sides where that bed hit that sucker. So he wanted me to get it running, hence we're doing a willet start video on it. Then he started talking about, why don't we cut the frame down, make it a short bed? He flips trucks, short beds sell better. I said, I've got one even better for you. I have a short bed sitting here that I'm not, a short bed frame sitting here that I'm not using for anything. We'll work out a deal and I'll swap the stuff over from the long bed frame to the short bed frame. And he goes, oh, that's a great idea. He brought the truck over. Well, then I'm sitting there looking at this, and the door's hammered, the fender's hammered, the cab's hammered, all that. And I'm looking at Sparky, which is the frame that I planned on using. And I'm like, it's got good doors, good fenders. The only thing wrong with the cab is the passenger rocker, which this truck, the only thing good on this is the passenger rocker. And that needs a passenger front fender. Doesn't need it, but this one's in better shape. So I told him, I said, hey, I'll do you one better. I'll take all the best pieces off of both trucks and make you the nicest short bed that I can. And he said, okay, deal. So today, I guess you could call this part one, but really it's gonna be a willet start because this truck has been sitting, trying to keep you guys out of the sun if you wonder why you're bouncing around so much. 2009 was the last time that it was plated. So let's see, that would have been 15 years ago. So it's been sitting hasn't run for 15 years. So before we take the time to pull the motor and trans and everything out to put in the other truck, we want to make sure that it at least runs and runs good, you know, and the trans shifts and that kind of stuff, because there's really no point in swapping everything over if it's junk. So today's going to be a will it start on this 84 C10. We're gonna, and I'll get into the rest later. So it's not a terrible truck other than every panel on its beat, but we're gonna solve that problem. Let's see what we got for a motor. 305 that leaks a lot of oil, but for the most part looks fairly clean. Spark plug wires aren't chewed up too bad. No wing nut on the air cleaner. It's got a filter in it, so that's good. AC, man, this thing's got the jack. Wow, this is a pretty complete deal. Looks like the radiator's been replaced at one time or another. Serpentine belt, pretty complete. So, all right, well, I guess time to dive in. All right, well, kind of figured out when I come to do a will it start on these small block Chevys, I just bring a ratchet with a little extension and a 5/8 socket, because with that combination I can go down on the crank pulley, make sure the motor turns over, can pull the spark plug out, look at it and see what it looks like, you know, all kinds of stuff. Probably gonna have to replace some vacuum lines on this, but in the meantime we'll just do that. This thing is complete. Still got the snorkel. You never find these, hardly ever, not in this good a shape. And it has everything. Still got the jack. I mean, it's got it all. Well, even a mouse nest. I don't know. I don't think you guys can see it, so I'm bringing it over here. I'm gonna see if I can't reach down in here, get on this crank bolt if I can find it. Oh, that's not good. Well, I can't turn it with this ratchet, so that's not good. But we'll get a spark plug out. Take a look, see what it looks like. It's wet. I don't know why, because this thing's been sitting. I was there when it got pulled out of where it got pulled out of, and it hasn't been turned over, so I don't know how a spark plug would get wet, but it is. Carburetor's free. It's low on oil, but it's got oil in it. Smells like oil, doesn't smell like gas, so that's good. don't know how well you guys can see that. It's got transmission fluid in it. Don't look the greatest, but it's there. No! No! I don't see nothing down in there. And it wasn't in the oil, so hopefully it was just water that evaporated in the last 15 years. So, alright, well, I guess first things first, we got to get this motor to turn over. So I'm going to, I don't know, I guess I can try it one more time and see if I can get it to move. No, it's not moving at all. So I guess I'm going to go get some tape or something. The spark plugs are all running behind the exhaust manifolds and everything, so for now I don't want to change that. So I'm going to go get some tape. I'll mark which plug's which, and we'll get ready to pull the spark plug. Alright, just because I don't really want to take this thing all the way apart just yet, went and got a little bit bigger bar, and I'm going to try one last time to get this to turn over. It's moving. There we go. Wasn't stuck bad, just a little bit. And that socket will be down there. Since we're gonna discontinue this item being the smog pump, we're gonna go ahead and cut the belt off of it, because in honesty right now we're needing the motor to turn over good if it's gonna start, and that's just drag. So I went ahead and cut that off. Honestly, the power steering belt's probably gonna explode if we get this thing running, but I'm just gonna leave it on there and see if that happens. So I guess since I know it turns over now, I'm not gonna put that spark plug back in, because I'll check and see if it's got spark and I'll use that to do it. But I guess I can put a battery in here and see if it wants to turn over on the key. I actually have a key for it, which is pretty uncommon for me. So we'll go get a battery. We'll put a battery in here and see if it wants to turn over. Yeah. All right. There's the battery. Before I crank it, I want to come down here and disconnect our fuel line. And by disconnect, I mean cut it, because if it has any fuel in the tanks, I do not want that fuel going into the carburetor. I ain't never had so much trouble cutting a fuel line in my life. also usually am not fighting through smog pumps when we're trying to do it. But we'll get it. There we go. Alright, we got it. Now, I'm just going to go hit the key and see if I freed this thing up enough that it'll turn over on its own. Okay, well, it cranks over on its own, and I cranked it long enough to see that it got up to about 20 or 25 pounds of oil pressure on the gauge in there. So that's good. We got our fuel pump disconnected, so we know we're not sticking fuel in there, so that's good. And next thing I guess we're going to need to do is I'm going to bring my starter button out here and hook it up so that I can work it out here while we check spark and stuff. So I'm going to go get that, put some of this stuff that we don't need anymore away, and I'll be right back. Alright, I got my do-it-yourself button hooked up here, and we got our spark plug wire down here. Hopefully this is where you guys can see it. It'd probably help if I went in and turned the key on, because I don't think we're going to get spark without it. Alright, now we have the key on. Can you guys see that spark plug down there? I can't tell, it's too bright out here. I'll try to hold it up where you can see it. Hopefully you can see it. You guys see that? Looks like some pretty decent spark to me. So we have spark. We have crank. I can still breathe, so I'm assuming there's some air going. So really, to see if this thing's going to pop off, all we really need is fuel. So we might go get a little cup of gas and see if we can do some squirty and see if this thing attempts to run. Now, this isn't going to be the quickest willet start of all time, because even if it, you know, kind of spins over and fires off, we're still gonna make sure it stays running, make sure it doesn't overheat, make sure, you know, all that kind of stuff. And then I want to see if the transmission works. And just because I had somebody tell me that I needed to grow up because I like burnouts in the comments, I'll probably even see if this thing will do a burnout. So let me go get some gas first off and see if it'll even run. Okay, got him some gas. Just make sure we got enough in there that it can smell it. I think that should do it. What do we know about doing willet starts? Safety second. Even if you check to make sure that it's in park, don't stand in front of it. Here we go. Ooh, that's a good starter. You know, it's trying to run on like 3 cylinders. Get it good and flooded. Hopefully it'll choke itself. Yep, great starter. I'll say it's running, but it's about all I'm gonna say. I'm not gonna say it's running good. We can get some fuel down in the bowl here. I don't think we're gonna be able to. I think I'm just flooding the crap out of the carburetor. Alright, I know it's not going to move, so maybe I can keep it running. If I can keep the starter going so it'll start. Come on. Alright, well, I'll call that 10 seconds and we'll consider that good enough to try to hook fuel up to it. So I'm going to go see if I can't get an old antifreeze jug that probably still has a little bit of antifreeze in it. Or an oil jug that probably still has a little bit of oil in it or something along those lines. And put some fuel in it. We'll run a line down to our fuel pump down there. Hook it up and see if we can't get this thing to just sit here and run on its own. So it's some weird noises coming out of there, and I don't know if it's critters or the motor or what. So hello? 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 I don't know, it's making some kind of funky noises, but let's get a fuel system going. Alright, I brought the camera out here so I could show you guys. I got my temporary fuel system hooked up here. The only thing I could find was an old gallon water jug. And I've got a fuel line that's running down to the pump. Going into that, hopefully the pump is good and it'll draw fuel. So I refilled my fuel distribution jug I got here, and yeah, so I guess all I really got left to do is put a little bit of gas in it, see if it's gonna fire up, and then see if the fuel pump pulls fuel out of my little jug and keeps it running, which is what I'm hoping for. Is that gonna happen? I don't know, but we're not gonna find out if we don't try. So let's get to it. All right, so got the key turned on. Put some fuel in there. I was just about to say, I'm hoping that's pulling fuel from the tank and not what I just poured in the fuel bowl, but guess what? Pretty sure it was what I just poured in the fuel bowl. So we'll try one more time. And now it ain't turning fast enough to start, so I'm gonna go and charge the battery up, and then we'll come back. All right, so I've been out here riding the struggle bus for half an hour. Haven't really updated you guys, so I looked over at my fuel jug that had about a half a gallon of fuel in it, and I barely tried to start it at all when I had the camera on. That's all that I tried to start it, and it's like dang near empty. So I'm like, that's not right. There's either got to be like a straight through feed in the carburetor or something. So I came over here and I looked down there at my fuel pump, and it's evaporated and dried off now because I've been fighting trying to get the smog pump out of my way. But it was just soaked in fuel. Like the diaphragm is bad, and it's pouring out the weep hole and the pinch seam and wherever else it can come out of. So bad fuel pump. I know we're gonna pull this motor and stick it in another truck, and might do some other things to it that haven't told you guys about yet, but that's going to be in another video. But either way, we still need, I still want to get it running, and I still want to like drive it around. I want to make sure the transmission, like I'm not going to be able to go take it up and down the road, but I can at least take it around the shop here and make sure that the transmission grabs, and I might even be able to get it to shift into second gear and stuff like that, just to make sure that we got a decent transmission. So we find out now before I go through all the work to put it in a different truck to find out then. So that being said, I just wanted to update you guys. I have another fuel pump sitting right over here. That's a 3-line fuel pump, just like the one that's in there, that I found over there in my storage closet. And I threw it on the floor. And I would like to think that I wouldn't have saved it if it wasn't good. But you never know. I got crap laying all over the place. So I'm gonna fight through the whole hassle of putting that used fuel pump on this motor. And then we'll find out that that one's bad too. But I'll bring you guys back after I get it on so you can see me fail, because that's fun, right? So I'll bring you back after we get the pump on. All right, well, I got the smog pump off. I got the new to this truck fuel pump installed, and I had to leave. My oldest son qualified for state for track, and him and my wife had to go out of town for 3 days for the track meet, and I had to stay home with my little one, so I had to get out of here and get home. So I hurried up and got the fuel pump installed. You may be able to see I've got a vacuum cap with a hose clamp on it on the return, because I don't want it returning back to the tank, because I didn't do that with the old one, and it emptied my whole half gallon of fuel back into the other tank. So now what we need to do is go get more fuel in our jug, because like I said, it emptied it, and whatever it didn't empty, which was very little, I'm assuming just evaporated, because the tank is 100% dry. But I'm gonna go put more gas in it. We might do a quick carburetor rebuild, and then we're gonna try firing it up and see if it'll sit there and run by itself without pouring gas all over the place, or catching on fire, or, you know, any of those things. So let's see what happens. Okay, if you look right there, we've got almost 3/4 of a gallon of fuel now, all hooked up through our fuel pump. And I mentioned we might do a carburetor rebuild, and by that I just meant like hose the thing down with carb cleaner. It's really not going to do anything anyway, so let's just try to start it. Alright, that should have brought some fuel up. It's idling on its own. A little on the low side, but it's idling on its own. And we got a whole bunch of gas leaking out of our filter housing there, so I'm going to go ahead and shut it off. Right down in here, this thing is dripping gas like crazy. And it appears it's coming out of where the lines screw in. So I'm going to go ahead and see if I can get those tightened down, and we'll try starting it again. Alright, let's see. We'll find, oh yeah, that's loose. I hate all this extra vacuum crap that's completely unneeded. It really gets in the way and ticks you off. There. Alright, see if it's still leaking all over. Fired up a little better that time. Doesn't appear to be leaking anymore, so that's a good thing. I can't even see water, antifreeze, anything down in the radiator. So we're going to shut it back off, and we're just going to top it off with water, because like I said, this motor, as long as everything continues to seem okay with it, this motor is going to come out of this truck and go into another frame over there. So we're just going to put water in it, because like tomorrow we're going to be draining it all back out again. But I do want to drive it around the yard and stuff here and make sure that it's worth pulling it all out and everything. So I'm going to go get some water. We'll top it off, see how it goes. Alright, we got some water. Gonna get some poured in here. Hopefully it's not like empty, because if it is, that means there's a freeze plug out or something. Got about a half a gallon in there. We're just gonna look. Make sure we're not leaving a big puddle anywhere. Doesn't appear to be leaking anything, so let's keep going. Maybe it just, somebody had just put water in it and it evaporated out over 15 years of sitting. I don't know. As clean as this radiator looks, they might have put this new radiator in and then just never filled it back up. No telling what people do with stuff. Alright, that filled us up. It's about 3/4 full, but I want to make it all the way full. I'm going to go get some more water. Alright, we're going to start it back up, let it run for a minute, see what happens. The more we start it, the easier it starts. It's firing right up and idling right on, so that's good. I checked the oil the other day, it was fine. I checked the tranny fluid and it had some in it, but that was without it running or anything. So now that it's running, I'm going to go ahead and pull the dipstick, make sure we got enough that it should move. So, what do you guys think the outcome of checking the trans dipstick was? not on the dipstick. So I'm gonna go get some transmission fluid because I don't want to burn this trans up trying to move it. But it was like way up the stick before I started it. So it's on the bottom of the stick just barely. So it's probably only like 2 quarts low, but that's enough to keep it to about 350 from moving. Like I said, I don't want to hurt it. So once again, we're going to take a break, or I'm going to take a break and go get some tranny fluid and come back and try again. Okay, I'm back. Got some transmission fluid. Now when I checked it when it was running, I pulled the stick out and the transmission fluid covered just the tip. So that's below the out of court line. So yeah, it's got a full hot mark. It doesn't have a full cold mark, but I'm just going to put 2 quarts in because honestly, if I overfill it, that's why they have a vent, so it can puke the extra out. So I'd rather have too much in it than not enough. That may not necessarily be the way to go, but that's the way we're going to do it. I think the worst part about this truck that we're not going to use the body on, not having a bed, is like when this bottle's empty, I can't just throw it in the bed because there's not a bed. So now we got to keep track of them, make sure they don't blow into the woods and whatever. I know you guys couldn't see that, but old flatbed tow truck that just went by, and that was Mr. Earl, and he's one of the nicest guys you'll ever meet, so you always wave when you see him. Alright, so I got that topped off. Got the stick back in so we can check. No, we're not going to check it because I only bought 2 quarts, so if it needs more, then we don't have any. So anyways, I'm going to start it back up. It's full of water, should be full of transmission fluid, should be full of oil, or it in between the add and the full mark on the oil, which will be enough. I'm going to fire it up. I'm going to let it sit there and run for a minute, and then we'll put it in gear and see if it moves. Alright, well, this truck doesn't have a seat in it because my buddy, who the truck actually belongs to, took the seat and the carpet out so that he could clean them up good, so when we put them in the other truck, they're nice and in good shape. So I'm going to go grab another seat that I got. It's pretty comfortable, it's a decent seat, but I'm going to go grab it and stab it in here for the time being, just so I got something to sit on while I move it around. Okay, bolts right about there. Needs a little bit of padding. The cover on it's kind of worn, but you know, it's whatever. Look how easy this thing starts now. Let's alright. That's way too high. Guess we'll just sit like this. Alright, let's put it in gear. See if it wants to move. You guys ever have one of those brain malfunction moments? I do. So a couple weeks ago, put the motor and tranny in old Swamp Thing over there, getting it all ready to go, and I didn't have a drive shaft for it. You figuring out where this is going? Pretty sure you are. So my buddy's like, oh, I got a drive shaft, I'll give you a drive shaft. And I'm like, okay, cool. And I was like, you know what, wait a minute. We've got that long bed that we're gonna switch everything over to a short bed. So we don't need the drive shaft for it. So we'll just go ahead and pull the one out of there and stick it in here and in there, and then we'll have a drive shaft. Well, now comes time I need to move this truck, and I totally spaced it, forgot all about it. I ain't got no drive shaft in it. So that kind of makes it kind of hard to move if it doesn't have a drive shaft. And I totally spaced it, totally forgot until I put it back in park and heard the meh, and I'm like, why in the heck would it do that? It's got to be spinning to do that. Ding, ding, ding. All my brain functions started to work and realized we didn't have a drive shaft. So got a hold of my buddy, got a drive shaft over here in the back of RJ. We're gonna go grab it, throw it in, and then maybe this transmission will do transmission things. Time to find out. All right, folks, guess what we're doing? We're riding the struggle bus again. Drive shaft is in. It's the right length. It's the wrong U-joint. Show you what I mean here in a second. See how there's a big space between the edge and the U-joint? It's not supposed to be that much. It's about the same on both sides. The U-joint is too narrow. We're still gonna try to do a burnout, and there's an 80% chance that we're gonna throw that drive shaft out of there. It is what it is. So anyways, got the drive shaft in, came up here, hit the key, and it cranked. I'm gonna turn RJ off here. I'm charging the battery up a little bit, but it cranks fine. It pulls fuel into the carburetor just fine. Will not start. I messed around with it a little bit here and there, whatnot. Thought I flooded it, so I waited and whatnot, and there I have the #1 spark plug wire pulled off the plug, and I went and grabbed another plug and put it in there and cranked the motor over. No sparky. So with that being said, usually if an HEI, let's break that down. If an HEI has spark and runs and drives and everything, and you shut it off and don't use it all night and come back the next morning and try to start it, I'm so sure of this, I'm gonna say there's probably a 98% chance that it's this right here, control module. I just happen to have another distributor laying on the shelf, and so that distributor had a nice cap on it and a nice rotor on it. They were a little corroded, but I took some sandpaper and cleaned them up, and maybe not. I'm gonna just replace the control module and see if that fixes it. If it doesn't, that means the coil's bad. That cap has a new coil in it. And if the control module doesn't fix it, then we'll just change out that whole cap with the coil, and that should do it. It's gotta be one of those two things. It's an HEI. It's getting power. I didn't tell you that. I checked the ignition source to the coil, and it is getting power. So it's either the coil or the control module. My guess is the control module. So we're gonna go out there real quick, change it out, See what the outcome is. For the time being, I'm gonna try to get this cap off. Of course, the wires are short, so I can't get it out of the way. That didn't sound good. Jeez. Hate these things. I'm gonna get rid of that. Okay, so what we're gonna do, pull this one and this one off. This goes up here, that goes over there. The wires are actually numbered, which is pretty nice. So we'll go ahead and do that. And I left, no I didn't. Okay, so I just learned something about this truck that I wasn't aware of, and that is that it has that stupid spark control, whatever the crap it is on it, and we don't need that. So the best way to get rid of that is to change out the distributor so that it doesn't have it. But I don't really want to do that right now, but I don't have a control module for this style. I only have it for the other one. I'm gonna go look and see if there's a way that I can eliminate that from this distributor. by looking at the other distributor. So I'll let you know what I figure out. Okay, well, this is turning into a lot bigger project than I had intended for it to be, and a lot further than I was going to go on this video, but hey, we're here, right? Let's just keep going. So I made up my mind that this distributor was going to get changed out anyways, so put the rotor back on this one so I know where it's pointing. I got the other distributor down here that's ready to go. Pull that one out, drop that one in facing the same direction, put our cap back on, hook our wire up. We should be good. I gotta go get something else to get that tie down broke loose, because what I got here is not going to do it. Alright, so the main reason I'm changing this, which I think I already mentioned and said I was going to change it anyways, is this truck originally had electronic spark control, which is a module that it's a computer that plugs into the module that basically tries to control the spark. And it was one of the biggest mistakes, or one of the stupidest things that, in my opinion, that GM ever came up with. And if you don't believe me that that's the case, ask yourself why it was only available for like 2 years. And every single one that I've come across that sat for a period of time are junk. Like they don't work anymore, or they work momentarily and then stop working and the trucks quit running. So case in point, this thing ran fine yesterday. Today won't run at all. So we got our rotor pointing at number 1. So we're gonna, oh, come on, extra electronic spark control. I'm gonna file that one in the don't accidentally put it back on the shelf department. Get much junk out of the way as we can, and then we'll grab the right distributor, the good distributor, hopefully, and we'll drop it down in here. The right way. Get it just right. Okay. Sitting all the way down, so now, even though I tried to line this up the best I could, there's still a good chance that it's going to be off. So I know that that was pointing more over this way, and now not so much. So I'm going to leave this loose because there's a good chance that we're going to have to adjust the timing a little bit just to get it to drive over there where we want it. So this is why I love these old carbureted small block Chevys because this is something that you can do in a pinch on the side of the road. Bam, distributor's changed. Got our cap. I know that distributor moved a little bit from where it was, so I'm going to move the cap a little bit in the same direction, which should put us pretty close, hopefully. Alright, and then we will get our ignition wire plugged back in, and so that's number one. Let's go down the line here. That's 4, so 1, 8, 4. That's 2, which means that, yes, that's 8. 1, 8, 4, 3, 6. This is 3. So all we need is 5 and 7, which should be right here. Oh, that one's not marked. Should have one more wire. There it is. Oh, yeah, it is 6. That's 5. And that's 7. Okay, now plug our vacuum advance back in. That's coming up here. This, I'm gonna have to go get a vacuum cap. Should have somewhere else here for a vacuum line to go. This is just sitting here not hooked up to nothing, so we'll make that hook up. We're going to be getting rid of all that crap, like all that extra vacuum is going to go away. Let's put some fuel in here. Probably help if I plug the coil in. Good thing I thought about that before I made myself look like more of an idiot again. Alright, that's plugged in. We poured some gas in. We got our distributor in. Got my starter button hooked up out here from when I was doing a little bit of diagnostic off camera. So, where's my starter button? There it is. See if we got spark now. And we definitely do have spark now, to the extent that it tried to start. So, I don't know what it was. Yes, I do. It was that dumb electronic spark control is what it was. So A little bit more love juice. Took our fuel line out of our jug down there when I was cranking on it, so we didn't flood the crap out of it. And away she goes. I'm gonna let it sit there and run, warm up for a second while I go inside and put all these tools away. And seems to be idling a little bit high, which means the timing's probably a little bit advanced, but I'm going to let it warm up for a second while I put stuff away, and then I can come back and just adjust it a little bit and see what happens. We want to have the timing a little bit advanced anyways, because we need as much power as we can get here in a couple minutes. So I'll be right back. Alright, try it again. All right, it runs, it moves. Will it start? Yes. Will it run? Yes. Will it drive? Yes. Is there any reason for me to do a burnout right now? No. Other than the fact that I like to do burnouts. And a couple videos ago, somebody, I don't remember who it was, don't know what their name was, don't really care, put in the comments that I was childish and they started growing up at 18 and don't feel the need to do burnouts anymore. And I'm happily childish. I love burnouts, and I'm gonna do this one just for you if you're watching. Now granted, this is a 305. It's been sitting for a long time, so I'm giving it the benefit of the doubt. I did put a little bit of water down on the ground. I did possibly stick a little bit more timing in it than it needs to just run, but I want to make sure it'll do one. And once again, I like to do burnouts, and if we can't get this truck to do a burnout, then guess what? Yep, RJ's gonna do a burnout. So here we go. Alright, well, as you saw, it definitely runs good enough to do a burnout. I just did it in drive with my foot on the brake, and it doesn't have enough power and gear to keep a burnout going good in second. So like, it shifted itself up to second and kind of started bogging and falling. I let off, it downshifted. I whacked it again, it started going. I finally put it down in first gear, and then I I got to thinking about it, and these tires are still in pretty good shape, and they all hold air, and we kind of want to keep them around for a little while. So I stopped, but she's the spinner. And you know, I said there was an 80% chance our drive shaft was going to come out. She didn't even move. So things worked out. Now all I got left to do for me today is fire that thing back up. We're going to bring it over, nose it in here, and then we'll be able to start tearing it down and building this up, and that's going to be the next video. But anyways, as far as the will it run and start and drive and move and do a burnout, yes it will. So don't forget about the Hot Shot giveaway. If you don't know what I'm talking about, I mentioned it at the beginning of this video, and there's a video on Hot Shot that explains the whole giveaway. So go check it out. You could win it. As for, well, that's patches, but that's gonna be patches. You get the idea. As for the blue 86 truck, that's gonna become the blue 84 truck, that's gonna do it for this one. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you're not subscribed, please do. If it wasn't for you guys, I wouldn't be able to do this. Y'all have a good one. We'll see you next time.